Hello, my name is Daniel, as you know, and it is my pleasure to introduce you Mr. Dmitry Buterin. Hello, Dmitry.
Hey, Daniel.
Thank you for accepting my invitation. This podcast will be for the Romanian community. They are used to have in English, so they will understand. I would like, if you want, you can make a short introduction about yourself, or I can do one.
You can go ahead and do it.
Okay. So, as a joke, we can say that you are the father of Ethereum. Okay.
Grandfather.
The great father. Okay.
Because Vitalik is the father, and I'm his father. So that makes me grandfather.
Yes. We are the grandfather of Ethereum.
Yeah.
Maybe some people in Romania, they will not know, but you are the father of the famous Vitalik Buterin. And as I research about your experience, you have been also implied with the Block Geeks. It is a platform that have the scope to provide resources for education, but we will not speak about that if you don't want.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, what is your vision about the world that we live now with all this crypto story that started like a few years ago for most of the people?
My vision. I think we are blessed to see a really powerful, major transformation happening in the world. I think that many people are getting, obviously for humans, it's we want safety, right? And we kind of want our parents to give us safety, right? And in the society, we used for many years to rely on parent substitutes, if you will. Oh, the government will take care of you. Oh, the banks will, handle your money just fine. The big corporations will give you a job and, keep you employed and stuff like that, right? And in the last few decades, I think that it's becoming obvious to people that, that system is not really working. The governments fuck you up. The governments print money, create inflations. The banks are really just interested in making lots of money for themselves. The corporations firing people left and right, and all of that stuff, right? But the new, really exciting transformation is happening. Is that who do we trust, right? And instead of trusting those big, centralized, monolithic entities, the world is starting to turn around. Like, okay, how can we instead trust ourselves more, right? And Bitcoin, in many ways, has started this process because finally people, so Bitcoin came out, 12 years ago, I believe. All right. And people start to see, oh, wow, look at this piece of technology. We can actually use this as money, and we don't have to rely on governments, the governments that will keep printing the money to finance some kind of stupid wars or some other pet projects they have, to get more votes and all the bullshit that they do, right? It's like, oh no, it's money. It's just based on technology, and I can own this, and nobody can take it away from me, right? And I think it's beautiful, right? And it's also has taught people lots of lessons, right? Because with this whole concept of self-sovereignty, it's like, okay, I own my Bitcoin. Oh my God, I lost my password. Who do I contact, to recover? Well, you can't, right? So it's like, too bad, it's gone. If you have not dealt with your private keys in the right way, then your money is gone, right? And that's a big wake-up call for a lot of people. It's like, what do you mean? Like, but my money, well, it's gone, right? So Bitcoin has started this, and then 7 years ago, 8 years ago? Yeah, 8 years ago, their concept of Ethereum was born. And for many of you, I don't know, for all the people, you might have remember how internet has unfolded, right? And at first, maybe in 95, we had a bunch of very ugly static websites that were built with HTML, just like lines and text and maybe some images here and there, very slow loading, right? But then what happened is that people added programming language to websites. And now Everything we have is a web application. So that's your Twitter, your Facebook, your YouTube, whatever, right? They are all using their underlying technology, but there is all this interactivity. And Ethereum has done the same. It's looked at Bitcoin, and from that, it's like eventually the idea came out. Vitalik came up with this idea, and then a lot of people collaborated to refine the idea and make it happen. It's like, okay, what if we add programming language to this wonderful concept that Bitcoin has, and then it becomes a universal tool, not just like for money, but it can be used for stocks, for real estate, for games, now for art, for everything, right? So this is a really major shift. Instead of like relying on some big centralized entities to take care of us, and they will not, right? Finally, we're getting the technologies that are just belong to all of us, to humans all over the world, and nobody can censor you, nobody can stop you from using them. And I think it's a wonderful, and it's a big transition. It will not happen easily, right? Because all of their established entities, the governments, and all of their big websites, they will fight that, right? Because every new technology is always seen as a threat, right? But I think that the tides are changing, and we're really entering the stage of wide-scale adoption of that. So that was my long answer.
Yeah, I have several questions regarding Ethereum. Do you have any, contribution to what it is Ethereum today?
No, none whatsoever, except for my love for Vitalik and the whole community.
Okay, that is nice. But when you meet with Vitalik, do you talk about, do you have like talks about Ethereum, the way it's going, and what they should?
Sometimes. I mean, I have a curious mind, and we talk about stuff, and sometimes I try to give him my suggestions, and most of the time he doesn't need them. I mean, he's a bright person, right? But it's always like he likes in changing thoughts and ideas with many people. I'm one of the people sometimes he talks to and contribute ideas, but really he's a guy who he has a very broad conceptual thinking, not just about technologies underlying the Ethereum, but also like how do those technologies map to what's happening with the humanity, society, and so on.
Another question, do you see Ethereum here after maybe 10 years, 20 years?
Nobody knows the future, right? You should consult your local psychic. But I would say that right now, Ethereum is, as I mentioned, is 8 years old, right? And it's going very strongly. Lots and lots of people are involved. There's lots of stuff being built. And actually right now it's in such high demand that actually becoming really hard to use it because it's very expensive, right? Because the system uses this concept of gas, which means that to use the system, you have to pay a certain fee. And the fee is used to prioritize the transactions, because without that fee, then anybody can spam the system with unlimited free transactions, right? So the fee is just a mechanism to prioritize transactions. And because there's so much demand, and actually people are prepared to pay quite a lot of money to have their transactions processed. And because of that, the fees have become very high. Right. Anyways, but I mean, this is just a stage, and there are so many awesome, bright people working on solutions to this stuff, and the solutions are already happening. Things like Arbitrum, Optimism. I will not try to give you all those buzzwords, but back to your original question, right? Like when I sense that, it's a huge mass of stuff happening, right? And then lots of copycats, lots of people trying to like, oh, we'll take Ethereum, but when we'll remove the stupid concept of decentralizations. Who needs that? People just want cheap and fast, right? But the thing is, like, it's like you take a human and you remove, if you will, their soul, and it's like, okay, it's the same human, but without a soul, or maybe not, right? So lots of copycats, lots of, because obviously there's a lot of demand, right? And then people are trying to improve that and coming up with all kinds of ways to do it within Ethereum, outside of Ethereum. But it feels to me that this is a very powerful movement. That's international. In every country around the world, you will find people who are using it, building stuff, like Romania. And, Romania has lots and lots of awesome people. And one of their one of their early collaborators, right, was Mihai was one of the collaborators with Vitalik when he started that, right? So I think in 10 years, for sure, it will change a lot, it will evolve, and you might not even notice that, right? But this is a foundational technology, and I don't see it really going away anywhere. 20 years, who the hell knows? You know, maybe we will all upload our consciousness into computers and we will just exist and as electric signal. So who knows? Like, you know, maybe Putin will finally go totally crazy, blow up the world with nuclear bombs, all kinds of opportunities.
Yeah, that is true. What do you see? What do you think now the adoption of payments with crypto? For example, in my country, it is slow. It is slow. I mean, most of the people, you know, they put the money, they look the coin market cap, and they hope they get rich. That is not the way to adopt things, you know. What do you think is the adoption so slow?
Well, slow is relative, right? Because when I look at where we are right now versus where we were, I don't know, like 4 years ago, 5 years ago, there's lots of adoption, right? And it's really about creative people building useful stuff so others can do, right? And we have, and all kinds of stuff have been built, like DeFi, decentralized finance. The recent, this year, the whole blow up in NFT, their art on their blockchain, and now lots of stuff related to gaming. So it's happening, right? For me, one of the major inventions that actually made it much more, the adoption was accelerated, is invention of what's called stable coins, right? Because in the past, it's like dealing with crypto, it's crazy. You cannot use it for payments if you're a vendor, if you're a company, you get payments in Bitcoin or Ether, and next day it's up 20%, then the day after it's down 30%. You cannot run a business like this. But now there are crypto stable coins, right, which use the same foundational technology, and then they are built, most of them are built on the Ethereum platform, but they're linked to some kind of currency. Most of them are linked to US dollar, right? And then it becomes much more stable. So actually now more and more people in the world are starting to use those stable coins. You know, you make a deal, especially in countries where you have lots of, you know, high inflation, and, you know, not only trust the local currency. US dollar still has a lot of trust around the world, right? And it does have growing inflation, but it's still way better than most currencies worldwide. So now you can just send a stable coin, you know, payment in that US stable coin denominated cryptocurrency, and people can use that, right? And it's getting lots and lots more usage, right? So I think that's happening already. And the numbers that I've seen recently, and then, you know, I keep forgetting them, but we're talking about, like, for example, one stat, I think it was something like total number of addresses which have 0.1 ETH in them, so $400 roughly, right? I think the number that I've seen is 6 million people, which I think is quite a lot, right? Again, it's like, what is it compared to the population of Earth? It's just 0.1%. But you know what? This is quite a bit, right? And when you look at popular wallets, popular systems, you can see there is so much adoption happening. It's like, it's not even, it's not like going like this, but it's like going in, you know, feeds and ups and downs, but definitely happening.
Some of my followers are very young and they are eager to learn things and to understand better the crypto. Yeah. What would you advise them? I mean, most of them, they are looking like, you know, making money opportunities, but I think it's much more than that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, crypto has grown so much, right? And it attracts a lot of people, and there's a lot of, it's very human. We all want to achieve that success and safety. And like, we think, oh, when I have this much money in my account, I'll be so happy. And the thing is, like, then people start really gambling, right? Oh, that Shiba coin is going up, and, you know, the Doge coin and whatnot. And cryptocurrency is wonderful, and it's still very early technology, right? So lots and lots of risk, right? So I think that's, when I talk to people just entering this space, I start with one thing, like, guys, whatever money you put into this, first of all, you have to be prepared to potentially lose it all. It's unlikely to happen, but it's a possibility. It's a possibility, like, you know, there are hacks, or you might lose your password or somehow screw things up on your own end, all kinds of possibilities, right? So don't put all of your money and hope that it will grow 10 times within a few months. It might, but very unlikely to, right? Because that's a definition of financial pyramid, is like when you expect money to when you expect anything, any asset to go up quickly, and then people pile on that, and at some point it just blows up, right? And when you look at top cryptocurrencies, there are a bunch of very solid attempts, and then there is a lot of noise, right? And for most people new to the space, they really have no clue, right? And people then come up with all kinds of ideas. Oh, like Ethereum is too expensive because it's $4,000, or Bitcoin it's like whatever, 45, 40, 50 grand. Let me buy this stupid moon coin and maybe it will grow to 1,000. It might, but more likely you will lose all of your fucking money, right? So like being careful and kind of trying to learn the basics is key. And but end of the day, then start with something small and then keep learning, right? So for me, it's really about trying to use that and try to learn about all the different aspects of this. And there are lots of wonderful resources for that. One of the favorite resources that I recommend to many people is Bankless podcast, banklesshq.com. I'm sure you're familiar with that, Daniel, and it's a really awesome resource with all kinds of podcasts and blog posts and whatever. Lots of really solid education about this. And if I were to try to summarize something, it's like, again, I'm biased toward Ethereum, and for many reasons. And obviously, I have seen Ethereum grow from just a concept and idea to now millions of people, trillions of dollars, flowing through the systems built on Ethereum and beyond that. And so I think Ethereum has a lot of future. And how do you start using this at the moment, right? So the thing is, like, there is a major attempt is underway right now to scale Ethereum. And you will come across a term of L2, which is level 2, which are basically systems to scale Ethereum, because Ethereum by itself, the system, the reason there's so much demand is because the system is so reliable. The way it's built, the way it's designed, all of this stuff, it's a very solid fundamentally system, right? And because of that, like scaling that is hard, because like when you rush and when you want to improve things quickly, then you make mistakes, right? And you don't want to do that in a space like this. So while the main Ethereum platform is slowly progressing, lots of really awesome stuff happening, there are now being built a lot of this level 2 solutions. They're kind of ways to extend Ethereum so that more people can use it much more cheaply. So that would be my advice, is for you guys to learn about those things. And again, Bankless, there are many other sources where you can learn about this. And I will mention some names, names like Optimum, Arbitrum, ZK Sync, Loopring, Polygon, lots of really awesome solutions now that are much less expensive to use than the main network of Ethereum. But those solutions that I mentioned, they connected and they are leveraging the Ethereum network. So you can actually try and do things much more cheaply, instead of like paying tens or hundreds of dollars for a particular transaction. You can pay like $1, maybe a few dollars, or even less on some of them. So that would be my suggestions, to kind of like explore those level 2 extensions of Ethereum.
I have another question. I think it is a complex question. For example, I have two kinds of people. They are coming to me in Romania. Some, they want to make business, and they say, okay, we create a token. They have no idea what it is a token, but they create a token. Right. And also we have very, very smart people that I have seen technologies in Romania that blow my mind, but they Absolutely. Don't have money. They don't have business development resources. They don't have network. What they should do? Because, for example, now to pitch, for example, a company like Ethereum, it's not easy. What is a piece of advice that you can give to them?
Well, for starters, like Ethereum is not a company, right? It's an open source nonprofit foundation, and that's really important, because most of their crypto space is open source, right? So for technically minded people, there are tons of opportunities. You can get involved right now with so many projects, right? And and I think that before you start your own project, it's really important that you get involved with an existing project and you try to contribute. And many, people can contribute in many ways. You can contribute by coding, you can contribute like, doing the job of community manager, PR, whatever, like administration, project management, creating art. So there are lots of those opportunities. So it's really a matter of just searching for them. And yes, of course, learning English is really important because that's the de facto international language for all of this stuff happening. So that would be that. And yeah, I mean, whenever people come to me with a project and I look at this and it's very tempting. Oh, let's create our own token and maybe it'll go to millions and billions. It might, it's unlikely to happen. I mean, the key thing is, like for any other business, it doesn't really change. Technologies change, but at the end of the day, business is very simple. What is the problem we're trying to solve? Who is the person who has this problem? Do I have a better solution? Like, how is it better than the current solutions they use? And like, do I have the right skills to do that, right? So that's the foundation of any business, whatever technology you're using, whether it's crypto stuff, it's called now Web3, right? Whether it's a regular web application or anything else. And then, token is just a tool. It's like once you have a solid idea, then, and you gain some experience and you can try to see how you do this. But token is like, for me, like if you start with that, that's probably, you're really just trying to make some money. And nothing wrong with that, but it's very unlikely to be anything that will stick for a long time, right? And I'll give you one example. One of Ethereum-based product. Well, actually, I'll give you a couple of examples. The biggest decentralized exchange is called Uniswap. And I think Uniswap is like maybe 3 years old. And it was really funded with initially with a pretty small grant from Ethereum Foundation. So Ethereum Foundation periodically reviews good ideas and they give out grants to people who want to build projects on top of the platform. And if you just start learning with that, go to Ethereum Foundation website and look at what kind of things they're looking for. That's one wonderful opportunity. And Uniswap, from that small grant, I think it was like 50 grand, maybe even less than that. They eventually built what has become #1 decentralized exchange in this space, right? And another example, and by the way, they didn't have a token until a year ago, I believe, right? Like a little bit more than a year ago, right? So they didn't start with a token. They first built a service that was useful, and people started using this. And you don't need a lot of money to do that in the technology space, right? Another example, it's called Ethereum Name Service, ENS. It's a place where you can now buy. And by the way, that's one thing I definitely would recommend to all of you is consider buying your own name. It's like when internet has started, right? So buying a domain name like blah blah blah.com or whatever blah blah blah.ro was a good way to enter the space. Also good investment potentially. And the same is now happening with Ethereum names .eth, right? So there is an Ethereum name service that sells .eth names, and so you can go and buy your Daniel Mihai .eth name, and it's very inexpensive. So that system was built. I'm thinking maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and over the years it got used by more and more people. And again, there was no token, and they just actually created a token. And again, the way things are done in the crypto space is that instead of their foundation team just keeping all the money themselves, they actually gave that token to all of the users. And this is also what I talked about in the beginning. This is also changing the way we interact with technology, right? Like Facebook is a wonderful, powerful company, and they're making money, and you're using the system, and you might own some Facebook shares, but you're not really benefiting from what is happening in that, right? And it's very different from modern crypto-based systems. Like with ENS, all of the users got what's called airdrop, right? So they were issued to just as a reward for being, if you will, loyalty for being a user. They were all issued a bunch of tokens, which are worth like thousands of dollars, right? And the token was created much later than the project started. So that's kind of the way I think.
Another question: do you have any favorite project except Ethereum?
I mostly look at Ethereum space, but Ethereum is just a platform. There are lots of projects being built on top of that, right? Like, for example, so there are like so many of them, from Aave to Uniswap to Compound to DYDX and Axie Infinity. Like, there are so many wonderful, and ENS, of course, and like there are dozens of awesome projects. So my personal interest is really like I mostly look at the Ethereum space, but again, Ethereum is just the foundation. It's not like one project. It's like Ethereum is just foundation technology, and then there are like hundreds, thousands of other projects being on top of that. I'm not really like plugged in closely into a specific project, so it's not like I can give you a tip like, oh, this is a hot talk and buy it. It's more like my personal suggestion would be is actually look at things more fundamentally. Again, like if you just hope and expect, like somebody recently asked me, oh, my girlfriend wants to invest some money into crypto and, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, tell me a little bit about your expectations and timeline. And the guy said, okay, well, she has maybe half a year and she wants like 10x her money. I'm like, yeah, go and gamble into a casino, because like if you go into crypto with expectation this is going to happen, you're much more likely to chase all kinds of bullshit scams and jokes and whatnot, and you will lose all your fucking money. And I would rather not happen that to you. But if you look around, if you look at more fundamental things, right, the whole space is going to grow, I'm sure, like tens of times within the next 2 years, right? Can you give yourself a longer timeline, right? If you don't expect to make money within few months, within 6 months, well, within a year, you probably will be in a much, better space. But if your timeline can be a few years, 5 years, then you're in much better position. You don't have to chase, all those crazy new projects and the latest moon fucking Shiba or whatever, right? But you can actually look at things fundamentally. You can kind of get a higher perspective. You can experiment, and then you can start with some basic fundamental things, like even Ethereum itself, right? Nobody knows what's going to happen, right? But I would guess over the matter of few years, the value of Ethereum will increase by a number of times, right? It will probably not increase by 100x, 1000x. That's happened already, right? But within a few years, for Ethereum value to grow 10x, 20x, 50x, quite realistic, just because, again, like the whole world economy is moving toward the decentralized future built on crypto and blockchains. So you don't need to find some fancy new, quick things. But yeah, there are many other solid attempts, many other stupid scams and jokes. And it's really important that you learn more about the space and learn to distinguish them, and you learn to understand, okay, what are the fundamental reasons? Like, what is the team? What are they building? What's the vision, right? What is there beside an expectation that things will go up?
Do you think it is a matter of time until Ethereum will overtake Bitcoin as market cap?
I'm pretty confident of that. Like, and again, like, who knows? But Bitcoin is the original invention, and it's wonderful. I love Bitcoin, right? It's like the creativity, the ingenuity of personal people who put it together is like amazing, right? But the thing is, like, the technology has to evolve because the world is evolving, and it seems to me that it's ossifying. And there are a couple of major issues that I see in Bitcoin, and it's like Bitcoin is now in a bit of catch-22 position. Like, it has very strong position, but its position is like, we're ideal, we're never going to change, which is very strong, right? Because the criticism of Ethereum, well, Ethereum is complex, changing all the time, it's much harder to understand. Of course it is, right? And those things are its weaknesses, but also they are foundation of its potential, right? And Bitcoin is really saying, like, we're ideal, we're perfect, and like, yeah, we're using lots of energy, but this is just the perfect aspect of Bitcoin. I don't think so. I think that Bitcoin will have some major issues, starting with energy first, and the other one is the way they pay to miners. Again, like, lots of smart people in this space and the Bitcoin community, but there will be some shakeup, right? And again, when I look at Ethereum versus Bitcoin, for me, it's pretty obvious that Ethereum has so much broader potential for being used and so many different things in the society. And Bitcoin is really awesome at being money, which is wonderful and whatnot. But the thing is, like, it looks like Ethereum is also becoming, already is, a quite awesome at being money, but it's also this fuel for using applications. You can use your Ethereum, you can put it into this staking, so you can actually make some passive interest. There's so many things you can do. You can use art, it will be applied in gaming. And if you look at the announcement, right, like Adidas just recently did this, like yesterday, 2 days ago, they did this major drop of NFTs using one of Ethereum L2s called Immutable X. Like, you know, there's so much stuff happening.
One, let's say, strange question. Do you know who created the Bitcoin?
No idea.
No idea.
No idea.
So nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
Because there is a lot of talks about that. But it is good that we know about Ethereum.
Yeah, I mean, people want to have a nice story, like, oh, who was that? Maybe it was CIA, maybe it was this guy, you know, like, you know, maybe it was me. Yeah, no, it wasn't me, unfortunately. I would love to have those billions or whatever there. And it looks like, given that the bulk of Bitcoins from the original creator has not been moved in those accounts, most likely that person is no longer with us. So.
Yeah. Thank you very much for this very beautiful podcast. Maybe if you want, we can do another one in the next year.
Yeah, let's see what people think, if they think that I'm good looking enough, and, you know, if they like my take on things. But yeah, I think it was fun to chat about this. So I appreciate talking to you, Daniel.
Thank you. I will close. Thank you for watching us. Have a nice day, all the people, and keep in touch.